So this is that MP Concepts aluminum clone of the stock Rubicon bumper that I installed. The only thing I've changed on it since installation really is I cut off the front hook that came with the Smitty built winch. The synthetic rope had a hook, a forged hook on the end with a little spring clip. I didn't like how it had to run across to one of the tow hooks to secure itself or else dangle out of the front of the Fairlead. So I got this Factor 55 shackle type mount. So I cut off the hook that came with it and replaced it with this guy that sits flat in there, nice and tight. I also feel a little bit more secure in running a shackle through there instead of just having the open-ended hook. So that cleans up the front end a little bit. I think you guys saw the winch nests down in there real nice and low. I want to tell you a little bit more about some of the details that I like and don't like about this bumper. I want to talk about some of the challenges during installation and some of the things I did wrong. Maybe save you some time if you do this bumper install or something similar. The rest of the bumper, you know, it's hard to describe the finish. It's a really textured, kind of almost sandpapery feeling finish. It feels nice, but what I've noticed it is prone to scratch really easily. So if we come in tight here, you can see as I go along, you'll see some little surface scratches. They're no big deal. You know, it's aluminum. I'm not worried about it rusting or anything, but they do show up pretty easily. The other thing is these front little fog light caps. I think these are the same. These are compatible with the standard Mopar ones that come from the Rubicon stock bumper as far as I can tell online. One of these was pretty beat up in shipping. You can kind of see you know, some scratch marks and dings as we come across. This one's in a little bit better shape. I read online a lot of people receive these broken because they've been banging around in the packaging. So they have some clips that retain them in the back along with some screws. You know, mine were okay, but I could see how they would easily break. I think you can order the Mopar replacements for about 30 bucks a pop if you need new ones. The skid plate underneath, this is one of the areas I struggled with, and I didn't realize I didn't have to use the standard nuts to get the screws in from the bottom. It has these clip type ones that go over the front lip of the bumper itself, and then they're captive, so when you screw in the bolts from underneath, you don't have to worry about holding that nut on top. And I saw those in the packaging, and I didn't know what they were for. The instructions were not explicit about it. But if you can see under there's a couple of little bolts, and they're really hard, if you do it like I did, they're really hard to attach to the nuts on the top side because it's a long reach with really tight clearances. But in fact, you can put on these little clip type retainer nuts on the bumper before you put the skid plate on, and then you don't have to hold the nuts on the top side. That would have made my life quite a bit easier. The other thing that's really tricky that I've seen other people complain about is these nuts and bolts that go into the side of the fog light fascia, this little plastic molding piece. So there is no way that I know of to hold the nuts on the inside of this aside from getting a hand in there and trying to hold them still while you get the bolts in from the outside. I actually misplaced the ones, or I lost the ones that came with the kit, so I just used what I had laying around the house, so they're not black, but they fit the bill. So this is the back side of the bumper. This is the fog light that you see here, so the wiring goes straight to the fog light. And what you can't really see from this camera angle is where those bolts on the inside are, but if you imagine right behind that metal plate with the circle cut out where the wiring goes in, if you slipped your hand in here, you'd feel the nuts and bolts on the inside that attach the fog light fascia. And you can feel them. You can get your hand in here and feel them with your fingertips, but trying to hold those bolts in place, trying to hold those nuts in place rather, while you screw the bolts in from the outside, it's tricky. I was able to do it just kind of by pinching that bolt between two of my fingers at the very end of my reach while I screwed the bolts in from the outside. But I dropped those nuts at least, I don't know, 3 or 4 times each, and it was a painful process to get those threaded in and tightened up. I'm sure there's, you know, somebody with some creativity can probably think of a better way to do that, but that was one of the challenging parts about getting the little fog light covers on. If we look down here, we can see the skid plate and how it attaches to these little drop sections of the frame rail. It has these little L brackets. So the L brackets attach to the skid plate itself, and then on the inside, which you can't see, it goes into the side of this little drop section with some riv nuts that go right into these hex-shaped bolts. So they seat in there nicely, but they are really hard to crank down to crush the riv nuts. They're Allen bolts that go in, so between an Allen wrench and a little piece of pipe extending it, I was able to get enough leverage on them to crank down those riv nuts, but you know, I was getting a quarter turn at a time or something with the clearances there. There's not a lot of room to work with on the other side of that, so that was a challenge, but really just time consuming. So one of the things I wish was a little bit different about this bumper is this front Fairlead area. You can see there's a bunch of little notches and cutouts and holes, and these are made for the plastic cover which comes with it, which is this guy. Unlike the conceal that covers the top part of the bumper when the winch isn't in use, that is metal, this piece is just plastic. I suppose you could cut it out custom to fit the Fairlead, but it's not pre-cut or punched out or anything. So if you're not using the plastic cover, I don't see any real easy way to get around having these exposed holes around the Fairlead. That's a negative in my opinion, but it's not a huge deal. I may end up trying to cut out the plastic thing to fit the Fairlead and see if we can get that. I think I've seen pictures online of some guys that did it like that. So we may give that a shot, but it doesn't bother me too much overall. I don't know, not much to say about it. It's light. It looks pretty stock. It looks like the Rubicon bumper. You know, my bumper on my JL Wrangler before this, a 2018 Sport, I put a steel aftermarket bumper on it, and I liked it. It had a bull bar. It was a little bit more aggressive looking. At the end of the day, I realized I didn't really need the bull bar. I never used the lights that I had on it, and just it seemed like overkill for the way I use my Jeep. This guy I like. The winch I like just for an extra peace of mind if I'm out. If I'm out on the trail by myself or something, or in the wintertime I need to help somebody else. My main requirement was a winch compatible bumper, and when I found this one in aluminum, I thought I'd give it a shot, and I'm pretty happy with it. And I think that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video informative or helpful in some way. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks I am going to post up another video or two, so be on the lookout for those if you're interested in learning anything more about my Wrangler 4xe ownership experience.